Hello, my name is Seth, and this video is going to serve as a testing video for the BitTorrent algorithm I designed. The run of this video is going to be as follows. We're going to start by looking at the tracker and how that functions. We will then go and look at the clients. This will include the logging on and setting up of clients. It will include the uploading of files to the system and the downloading of files to the system. Throughout these processes, we'll be taking a look at database like this, which will store all of the records and clearly show how the program is working. Furthermore, the aim of this will be to take these programs, the tracker, client 1, client 2, and client 3, set up the tracker, stored in here, then set up client 1, client 2, and client 3, and from client 1, upload these 4 files which it has in here. These files run a previous program I have made. Then, we would like to download these 4 files into client 2's space and client 3's space. The first step, as noted, is to set up the tracker. The tracker is found in here, and navigating to this executable, we can run it. It can be seen here. As shown, it is operating on the port 10.68.38.228 on the port 6969, the standard port for BitTorrent trackers. This message shows that. Then, looking at the bottom right, we can see a button labelled Start. On pressing this button, the message changes to let us know that the tracker has indeed started, and reminds us that the IP address that it is running on. The button has now changed to say stop. Pressing this, the tracker stops. Pressing the X in the top corner can close this program. I am demonstrating the processes on the screen here to show clearly what is happening. However, the nature of my project means that I will require multiple screens to be able to send files between, and one to run the tracker. Because of this, I am in a computer room. Over here, we have 2 computers set up, one of which is running the tracker, as seen here. I have connected the IP address that this tracker is running on to a domain name. This means that instead of using the IP address, we can just input the easily rememberable domain name. Now the tracker is set up, we can start by setting up a client. To do this, we can go into client 1. Here, we see the files to upload. Here is a folder. This contains the resources for the program, including the executable. Pressing this brings us to this screen. It has a message prompting the user to enter the address of a tracker and a box to enter it into. If an invalid address is entered, it tells the user that this is an invalid address. However, if we enter the address of the tracker, this being linked to the IP of the tracker. It brings us through to this screen. Now, it wishes us to enter a username. Usernames must be between 8 and 16 characters. If I was to enter a username of 6 characters, it wouldn't work and prompt me that it should be between 8 and 16 characters. 18 characters, it does the same. However, if I enter a valid username, it brings me on to the next screen. This is now prompting me to enter a password. Passwords are blanked. I pressed many different characters there, and they all appear as asterisks. So I will have to tell you what I am entering. The first password I'm going to enter is pass. P-A-S-S, all lowercase. On entering this, the program tells me that my password should be at least 8 characters long. I will count for this. I make the password, again, all lowercase. Now the program tells me I should be using at least an uppercase letter. If I make the P of password a capital, it tells me that it should also be at least one number in my password. So I will set my password to password123. Now it tells me I need a symbol. All of these steps to make sure users are entering secure passwords so malicious users cannot access their accounts and pose as them. Now I will enter password with a capital P, exclamation mark, 1, 2, 3. This has gone through and been validated by the system and leads me on to the main screen. On the main screen, you see 3 buttons, one to download a file, one to upload a file, and one to exit. For now, let us press exit. Now we have quit the program. However, if we want to go on the program, we run the executable again. As you can see here, it is asking us to enter the address of the tracker again, which we'll do so. But instead of bringing us to the username creation screen, it brings us to a screen asking us to enter the password for the account. This shows it has recognized that we already have an account and wishes that we enter the password for the one we have just made. I will do so here. Entering the wrong password brings up the message, incorrect password, please try again. Entering the right password brings us through to the main screen again. There are a couple things I would now like to show you in the data stored in the system. The first will be in the database. If we open the database of the tracker, which we can see here, and go into table clients, we can see there is now a record for the client we have just created. It has the client ID of 1, the username, client1, which we entered, the IP address of the client, the activity status of the client, 1 meaning true, it is active, when this activity status was updated last, which is around now, and the date of the first logon, which is indeed today. The next thing is the account information. Here we can see many pieces of data. The first is the ID. We can see this is the same as that of the tracker, that we saw in the tracker. We also see the username that we entered, and after that, this incoherent string. This string is storing password. It is, however, encrypted. This means malicious users cannot access this password if the password is secure enough, which we ensured. I have now returned to the main screen of the client we have just created. The next step will be to upload the files that we wish to upload to the system. To do this, we can go into here, pressing upload screen. This brings us to this screen. In the center is a button saying select file. If we want to quit this screen and change our mind about uploading a file, we can press this, bringing us to here and pressing X. Now it tells us we could not upload a file and prompts us to continue, bringing us back to the main screen. However, if we want to upload a file, like we do, we press select file and navigate to the file. The first file I'll upload is this, calculator.exe. Double clicking on it means that it will upload it to the system. It tells us that this was successful and prompts us to continue. I will do this for the next 3 files. Now, I will exit the program. I have now set the client program to run consistently on this computer here, sat next to the tracker program, which is still running. There is now a few things I would like to show you in the database and storage. If we look at the database of the tracker, we will see that in table files, all these files have been successfully uploaded. We can see calculator.exe, calculator.exe.config, calculator.pdb, and passcalculations.txt. All of these files have the same author, client 1. They have varying sizes measured in bytes, which have been stored. They have different file IDs, which have been assigned correctly, and the date published. If we close this database and look in the file stored on client 1, containing information about the account, we will see nothing is altered. If we look, however, in the file location file, we can see the different files stored. Here we can see file 1 under this directory with the bit field completely filled. Same with 2, this having only 1 piece. With 3, this file having the most amount of pieces. And 4. The next stage is to come out of this and set up client 2. As with before, I'll start by connecting to the tracker. With the username, there is one more function. If you choose the same username as someone else, it should block that. The username we did before is client 1. We will now input this to see if that function works. It tells the user that the username has already been taken. we will use client 2 instead. It then prompts us to enter a password. And brings us through to the main screen. Now, we want to download the files. To do this, we press Download File. It then brings us this screen. It shows us the file code, or its ID, the name of the file, the author of the file, and the size of the file for all the files available. We can click on individual records and press download to download them. The user won't be able to download this naturally, which means it won't throw any errors. We can also exit. But we want to download a file. Let us start by downloading calculator.exe. When we hit download, it brings us to this screen, prompting us to choose a place to save this file to. We will go in the client2 directory and name it as calculator.exe. On pressing save, it will begin the download process. The download process may take a while, but eventually the bar, as you saw, filled up. If we go into the directory of client2, we can now see that the executable is there. I will now download the next 4. We will finish by downloading the text file, past calculations. We press download, go into here, past calculations.txt, save it, and download it. Some errors that are visible from that process is that the loading bars had a tendency to be glitchy. They also, when presenting files, sometimes don't line up properly. With this first file, it has achieved it relatively okay. However, this has run over to the next line and not worked as intended. No matter, we will now see if the file can run. Perfect. It has done what we intended and sent all the files correctly. And the executable works. This should be good for my friends who wish to send files to each other and executables to share their programs. The next thing to show is the effect this has had on the system. The first is the clients. We now see client 2 is logged on to the system with the IP address it is operating on, their ID, their username, and the dates they updated and logged on, along with their activity status. We also see records of the files, as shown. We also see, in the ownership table, the clients and files. We see client 1 owns file 1, client 1 owns file 2, and 3, and 4. We also see client 2 owns file 1, 2, 3, and 4. The final stage of the testing will be to set up a third client and download the file. Here, you see the same screen. And can log on with the account I have already made. Now, we wish to download the same 4 objects that we downloaded initially, this time downloading from 2 clients. To do this, we go in the main menu, in the download menu, and start by downloading each one. We will download this into this area of client 3 under the name calculator.exe. Now this program is downloading. This executable file is downloading. It was successful. I will come back once all files have been downloaded and we can view how this looks on the database. After finishing downloading the files and quitting the program, we can now see that all these files are in the system. If we look in the database, we see that the ownership has been updated, with client 3 now owning the files. The client stored in the system, and the files still as they are. The client that was logged off, the activity status was updated back to 0. This concludes the testing of the BitTorrent algorithm.